Last week, Grid Life iRacers took on the mountain in Bathurst, Australia. A race that was supposed to be full of chaos had plenty of action, but surprisingly little carnage at a racetrack not known for being kind. This week, we're at a North American Classic north of the US border in Bowmanville, Ontario. 10 corners, huge elevation change, and long straights characterize this 2.4-mile road course. Tonight, Grid Life iRacers takes on this track with GT3 and TCR machines for two 20-minute races. Lots of tracks have nicknames, but for this place, it's just lovingly known as Mosport. And the people around here, Larry, are also very kind. Welcome to Canada. It's Bowmanville, Ontario, and Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the third round of the Grid Life iRacers Sports Car Sprint. My name, of course, is Kyle Heyer, joined by Larry Lefty McLeod. Larry, tonight we go racing for two 20-minute races. Your thoughts, your expectations on these sprint races this evening?
I'm expecting close racing because that's what this track produces. There are long straightaways here, wide track, big sweepers, lots of speed. This place is kind of like an undulating oval at times because it produces a whole lot of just trains that you just got to really pick your way through. I'd be shocked if anybody breaks the draft at any of these classes. It's going to be nip and tuck right up to the end.
So while we're still waiting for qualifying to kind of get into the meat here, let's go through our track map here tonight, Larry, so take me through a lap of Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Yeah, you come across start finish down into turn one is a little bit bumpy right-hander, setting yourself up for a plummeting off-camber left-hander called Clayton Corner. Careful not to track right, because if you go off to the right, you'll continue right into the grass. Sweeping downhill further into turn three called Quebec Corner. Up onto those curbs in three, down further down the hill as you go under the Continental Bridge through turn four, further down the hill, plummeting down the hill all the way to what they call Moss Corner. This is the turn five sequence, 5A, B, and C. Don't worry about it. We're just going to call it the hairpin or Moss Corner. And that's the bottom of the circuit. From here on back, it's all uphill. Up the Mario Andretti straightaway. Somewhere around here is turn 6 and 7. Again, don't worry about it. It's all drafting. It's going to be nose to tail, lots of speed here with two classes. There's going to be flipping and flopping within and between the classes as they start finding their way towards the S's. It's a big, fast right-hander, turn 8, a little slower but fast turn 9 left-hander, and then winding up with a little bit of a tail whip turn 10 right-hander. Brings them back across start finish one more time. And it's just going to be exciting as they go around this place. And it's elevation, it's fast, and it's going to be crazy.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that. And qualifying is underway, and already 5 minutes complete. We'll pull up the intervals on the left-hand side of the screen. And at the top of the board in GT3 right now, it's Paul Darling. But you're noticing, Larry, that there is a bunch of drivers missing from the GT3 category this week because they're in TCR this week. Alessandrini, O'Gorman, Catil, and more have jumped ship from the GT3 cars to run around in some touring cars this week.
Yeah, DJ must have made it look real interesting as he was out there last week, starting at the back of the pack in both races, made his way through, finished second in one race, wins the other, said, hey guys, come on, come play in the TCRs. So Tomo and, as you mentioned, Catil and a few others said, you know what, that did look like fun. So DJ's got a fight on his hands. It's going to be exciting there. But plenty of talent left over in the GT3s there as well. Mercedes, Audi, BMW, Ferraris. Great mixture of cars in that class and plenty of talent with Austin Cobb, Paul Darling, Robert Gutierrez, Patrick Gallagher, Alex Barrasso. Just lots of names up there at the front already in GT3.
And we've got a lot of race cars here tonight. I think on the order of kind of mid-40s, almost 50, somewhere in there. Most of them are GT3 cars, and that's going to make traffic really interesting when these cars get back around to the TCR machinery. How wild is it going to get? Where are the best spots to catch traffic around here? Because it can get pretty narrow, especially down towards Moss Corner.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's going to be happening is you're going to come down through turn 3, the right-hander, which is kind of a long run, nearly flat out through 4 into that Moss Corner complex, that hairpin, and it kind of goes, it dips at the bottom of the hill, rises into the actual hairpin, and if you're catching somebody in multiple classes, it's going to be interesting to try and pick a place to pass. You might have to be patient if you're in a GT3 to get around a TCR until afterward. But from the exit of that turn 5 all the way to 8 is essentially one long, wide open throttle, about 45 seconds of nothing but throttle. And so if you're that GTR, or that it's going to be the GT3, you just want to get hauling the mail up that way. That's a great passing spot, whether it's to pass for class or pass within class. That's the place to do, is on that Mario Andretti straightaway.
Absolutely. So 3.5 minutes left in qualifying. And take a look at our track conditions this evening. 74 in the air, 82 on the racetrack. It's a beautiful morning here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
It is not February in Canada
No,
today's race.
it is certainly not. No snow on the ground to speak of, and glad to see that. A wind 10 miles an hour out of the north. We'll see how that affects the tailwinds and headwinds here on the long straightaways at Mosport. And also, how about the curbs here? I think there's a lot of tracks that you can use curbing to your advantage, but here it kind of depends on what car you're in and how you take it, because there are big guys around here.
There are some tall curbs. I think you got to be a little bit careful, but there's some, the turn 3 curb is pretty tall, but you got to get up next to it because the way that corner is. If you go wide there, you just lose grip and the corner fades away, kind of goes off camber. Turn 4, there really is no curbing. It's just kind of an apron sort of pavement change there. It's a bit awkward, but you got to get across that to line yourself up to break into that Moss complex. And the Moss complex, the curbs are very uneven. The pavement's uneven. It drops around. Got to be really careful where you're placing your car to get the rotation right coming out of there. That's where I suspect you're going to see a lot of carnage in here, is because the dynamics of the car, as the weight changes direction from front to rear, the cars are going to want to spin, or if somebody brakes late, they're going to push deep. Got to really be cautious of where you're trying to put the car through turn 5.
So about 2 minutes left in qualifying now, and at the top of the board in TCR, it's DJ Alessandrini, Tom O'Gorman, Ryan Carwile. You mentioned when you came in here earlier, Larry, that you were a little bit surprised to see that name kind of intermingled with the typical drivers we see at the top of the standings. So Carwile at a phenomenal pace to start the night. So he's third in TCR. And then in GT3, it's Darling, Barroso, Cobb, and Arroyan. Your top 4, Patrick Gallagher in 5th, Jeremy Swenson, the time attacker from Grid Life, in his C6 Corvette, currently 6th place right now with a 1:14.973, which is about a half a second off to Paul Darling's pace, which I expect Paul Darling to probably be the clear favorite tonight in GT3, but there's so much competition we won't know till the end.
Yeah, and what I don't see is a clear choice of car. Yeah, a lot of drivers are in the Mercedes in the GT3s, but Alex Barroso in the Z4, Austin Cobb in the R8, Patrick Gallagher in a Z4, Jeff Arroyans in a Mercedes. So out of those top 5, only 2 Mercedes and a couple of BMWs and 1 Audi. So no real clear dominant car. With the long straightaways, I guess everyone's feeling that there's enough power in any one of those platforms to get it done around this place. But with the long sweepers, maybe feeling that the BMW and the Audi can get it a little bit of gain back of maybe whatever grunt that the Mercedes might make up on the long straightaways. So car choice, not as critical tonight maybe as it was last week playing in Australia.
Again, I think the elevations, as you mentioned last week at Bathurst, you're climbing up the hill for half the lap, so having torque matters. But this week, torque's certainly going to matter. This is certainly a very fast racetrack, but top end also matters, as does downforce around here. You're going to be using pretty much every bit of the race car, and then you get on the brakes down into Moss Corner, and being able to outbrake somebody, it's going to get extremely wild, especially in traffic, because that's what the car's under so much compression down there that any mistake is just amplified, especially through the suspension. So it's going to be very, very wild to watch passing going on down there in Moss Corner.
Yeah, that braking zone going into there, it's hard to even describe, because you really do brake before you even start to turn in, right at the lowest point of the entire property here. And there's a lot of compression there. And then you rises as you turn in, which that gets the car light, and you really have to then almost double brake. You sort of brake a second time after you've turned in as the car rotates. So there's a technique. It's not just straight on how hard can you brake, pitch the car around and come out. There's a real driver's technique in getting out of there and getting a fast exit. And if a driver's trying to break the draft, it'll come in that section of corners. It'll come on the late apex coming out of 5 up that back straight. That'll be the difference if someone's able to break a draft.
Absolutely. So take one last look at our track conditions in case they've changed at all. Not really. Still the same temperatures we just saw in qualifying. Maybe 1 or 2 degrees dropped in the track temperature. And again, 20 minutes, it'll be about 17 laps if the pace out front is what it was in qualifying. Eric Catil, he put in his laps at the very end and ended up 4th on the grid for TCR. And with that, we'll roll through our starting lineup here. So on the front row tonight in GT3, it's going to be Paul Darling in the 155. Alex Barroso in the 39 starts in 2nd place. He'll be in a Z4 GT3 tonight. Row number.
You want me to?
You can go for it. Row number 2.
I don't think I've got the whole grid. What did you go through?
Gotcha. All right, Austin Cobb, 2nd or 3rd place, rather. And Jeff Arroyan will be starting 4th in his machine. Patrick Gallagher in 5th, the number 11 Z4 GT3. Jeremy Swenson, already talked about him tonight, in the number 21 Mercedes AMG. He'll roll off 6th. Rob Casera in the 177. He'll be in an AMG, as will Mackay Stevens in the number 16. They'll be row number 4. And moving on back to row number 5, it'll be Kevin Lee in a Mercedes and Andrew Abbott also in an AMG. Row number 6 will be 11th place, Vincent Cernuto rather, in the 555 Mercedes AMG, and James Tack in the 46 Ferrari 488. So there's a lone Ferrari out there. There's probably a couple more, and it's Chris DeShung's in one. But how about the Ferrari? Because that seems to be one of the rarer cars out there. How do you think that thing will stack up tonight?
I think that I'm not sure it's got the same grunt as the other cars, and that may be the reason why folks just aren't quite leaning towards it around here. I would like to see some of the more experienced drivers try it. I don't know that if Paul or Austin Cobb or one of those guys ever even tried the Ferrari. They kind of jump right into the German makes. But I'd like to see that. Maybe we'll see a Ferrari survive out here, because that's the other thing too. You can move up a lot with survival. We'll see if the Ferrari can make a top 5 out of this.
And still, the starting grid for the GT3 is rolling along the bottom of the screen as we set off for our pace lap around here. One pace lap before we turn them loose. And hopefully we'll get a chance to look at the TCR starting lineup before the lap is over. And this is your time to kind of get a grip on the track conditions, feel things out, warm up the tires and the brakes, because the next time you come down to turn 1, you'll be going full throttle. And then turn 1 here is so fast, and then you head off to turn 2, and it's like dropping off a cliff.
Oh, it totally is. And it's a blind cliff, too, because you're all the way to track right. You're trying to aim towards, there's a wall there, and then the bottom just drops out. If you're not already turned in at speed, forget it. You're going to go off in the grass on the right, and somebody's going to be going by you. To do that too wide here on first lap is a dangerous proposition that we're probably about to see.
So DJ Alessandrini is on pole in the number 1 Audi RS3 TCR. Then, of course, it's Tom O'Gorman, Ryan Carwile, 2nd and 3rd. Eric Catil qualified 4th in the late final moments of qualifying, so he'll put himself inside the top 5. And we'll let the rest of those scroll along the bottom of the screen, because we've got to head back out front as Paul Darling is down into Moss Corner here. So, best passing opportunity around here, would you think that it's Moss Corner, or is it somewhere else you think you got a better chance to make a pass?
I really think it's probably going in through 7 up to 8 into the S's is probably your best shot. I think going into Moss is tough just because of the sensitivity of the braking zone through there. It's always tough to get a line, and turn 4 into Moss is that bent, bumpy corner. You're almost better off setting up somebody up, come up the Andretti straight and set them up into the S's, and keep them behind you all the way around through the start-finish straight. I'm looking for the start here in TCR to be interesting, because O'Gorman's a very aggressive starter, and now on the front row with DJ, he'll be on the left. If he can keep DJ on the right, Tomo will have the inside line for turn 2.
Well, we're about to find out how things are going to pan out. Our third of 4 rounds will be at the Nürburgring next week, next Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. But out front, it's Paul Darling in command of GT3. They'll get the start first, and we'll head back and bring you to the TCR start. They're about a quarter of a lap behind. It's going to be AMG versus BMW. And row number 2, another AMG on the outside, but on the inside, it is an Audi R8 LMS. Here we go. Green flag flies, and we're racing at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the Grid Life iRacers Sports Car Sprint.
Start so far, falling in line, setting up for turn 2.
Paul Darling out in front, he's clear, and going to chop down in front. Behind him, there's a couple cars disagreeing over about 5th or 6th spot. They're side by side for a moment. That's Casera in the 177, who's trying to work over Mackay Stevens in the number 16 car. But so far, so good.
I know, it's tough to go too wide through there without losing a lot of time. He's already pulling a pretty good gap there, is Darling.
TCR has gone green, down into turn 2. A little bit of argy-bargy in the middle of the pack, but out front, Tom O'Gorman is the leader. DJ Alessandrini falls the 2nd. Carwile 3rd, Eric Catil 4th as they head through turn 2. Car off. Several cars off in the background, off in the grass. Valdi Pietro, Benson Tai, and a few more.
That's what I was thinking about O'Gorman, though, because he was starting on the left side of the track. If he could just stay with DJ, he would have the advantage through that turn 2. Now, of course, going down the back straight, that's where DJ will just stay in the draft and probably close it up. We'll see a lot of swapping throughout this race.
So Moss Corner for the first time for the TCR cars, and O'Gorman is the leader as they head through 5A and 5B. And they've all strung out, but how about up front? It's Darling leading lap number 1. He'll come on through. Barroso, 2nd place. Cobb, Roy, and Patrick Gallagher, your top 5 as they roll through for the first time. Justin Tizano, he's around in his Ferrari at the tail of the field. He's gone around, and I believe that's turn number 9. He's had some trouble. For 3rd place on the back straightaway in TCR, Carwile and Catil. Catil's out a little bit wide, and you got to watch out going off track in the TCR here, Larry, because if you get off in the grass, it's game over.
Oh, yeah. It's a complete skating rink in those things. it's hard enough to keep on the track on pavement. You go on the grass, and you may as well say hello to a wall.
And Tomo, with a really solid start, has pulled out in front of DJ Alessandrini by 0.2 of a second. And DJ's off a little bit in the dirt, so he's struggling with grip here early in the going. But once those tires warm up, I think we're going to see a very big transition in the handling for the number 1 car. He'll probably reel Tomo right back in.
Yeah, I totally think that they're going to be like this the whole race. It's just a matter of whether or not the rest of the guys can stick with them. I've talked to Tom about this, and Tom says that iRacing's done a really good job of the modeling of this Audi, and saying that in terms of how a real TCR car compares to how it's done here, it's a pretty well done. Obviously, with his real world experience running TCR, they've got the dynamics down pretty well. So you're kind of seeing some of that real world skill playing out.
See Brandon Abbott, he's just had an issue down in turn number 8. Got in and got a little bit loose in turn 8 and lost the front of the car and spun out into the tire barrier. So he's got some fairly significant right front damage. Another car off right in front of him, and it's Caleb Nichols in the number 40. So his Audi R8 has had trouble, and they'll both get rolling. But well clear of the TCR field, so no interclass destruction yet. But Darling has not really been able to stretch out on Barroso a whole lot. It's only 0.6 of a second gap, and Cobb and Arroyo and Galley are going to keep Darling honest tonight. They've already kept him within a second.
Yeah, that's the gap to watch, is 0.6. If you can get it to a second, that's when the draft starts to break. And it's all about that Moss corner. It's about the clean exit. As you watch that gap flutter between 5 and 0.6, so you're not breaking draft. And if it's still at 0.6, it'll close up to about 0.3. By the time they come to the end of the Andretti straight, you can see it now. It's down to 0.4 as they come up to 8, 9, and 10, down to 0.3 through the S's. And around we go again. You just can't break that draft. But Alex is going to have to do something with that if he wants to try and take the lead. It's going to be a long race. It'll be 15 minutes here. But you got to stay close. Maybe in the last couple laps, get it close enough to go into 8 and make a move. You can't just be sitting back 0.6. Now you're going to come out of the hairpin at 0.2 and try to make a pass.
Saw Ted Saley and Promo Ravi. They've had issues, and they're out of the race at the time being. Meanwhile, for 12th place in GT3, it's Vincent Cernuto in the 555. He's got James Tack all over the back of him in the 46 Ferrari. Two very different strategies on how to go fast. There's already a little bit of brake light failure on the 555, so my guess is he's already had a little bit of a run-in with somebody as he drifts wide in turn 3.
Picking back over to the TCR battle now is nobody's going anywhere yet. It's just a couple tenths. DJ behind Tom, Carwile, Catil, Kevin Glass. That 5 pretty much nose to tail coming across start finish.
So they come across start finish. David Sockrider in the 27 Audi RS3. He's spun down in Moss Corner, but we're going to check back up with TCR leaders. As you were just talking about them, there they are through turn 2. And Alessandrini sitting behind. And Carwile, I think, is the question mark here because we have not seen him race DJ and Tom, so we're not really sure if he's willing to sit in line and wait to the end of the race to make a move, or if he's willing to go up there and just pass him now, because it's going to certainly throw a wrench in their strategy if he decides to want to race right now.
Right. We saw his practice times. That's what you mentioned earlier at the start of the broadcast here, that his practice times are right between these two guys. He wasn't even third in practice. He was actually second quickest in practice. So we think he's got the pace to do it. He might just be biding his time and waiting for one of these two guys to sort of make a mistake. Tom and DJ don't make a lot of mistakes, but they're not infallible.
So onto the back straightaway, they climb again. Meanwhile, Barroso has closed in within 0.3 of Paul Darling, and they're hitting TCR traffic now, and Darling is stuck behind a pair of Audi RS3s into Moss Corner. And he's going to have to wait on him, so it's going to be nose to tail for the lead here in GT3.
And this is what you're waiting for if you're Barroso. This is your opportunity to make a move with that sort of lap traffic that bunched you up to 0.2 before the straightaway.
Here he comes. Drivers left on the back straightaway, heading through turn 6 and 7, now towards turn 8 and the S's. Barroso on the outside, Darling taking a defensive line. Can they run side by side through here, Larry? Gonna be tight.
It's very tight, but he's on the right line now to make this left through 9.
He's there. Oh, so close there as they drift together at the apex of 9. Now back to turn 10. Darling hangs on. Barroso's right there, and so is Jeff Arroyan in the 37, putting pressure on.
Yeah, good way to hold your line there for Darling to make sure that he didn't give that up so he could hold it through 10. A lot of drivers will drift wide through 9, allowing the other driver to tuck underneath and then take it through 10. But Darling, clearly the veteran through there.
Now a little bit of a gap between Darling and Barroso is open back up, but there's more traffic on the horizon here, so we're not out of the woods yet. Nothing happening in TCR at the moment. We'll take you there if passes start to happen. But the GT3 leaders have to negotiate quite a bit more traffic. On the outside, heading down the hill, Darling was inches away from being off in the dirt there.
And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this for the next 13 minutes.
So close.
The TCR cars are going to be dodged and dodging as they're going right around them, bookending them.
And splitting up the middle, and Darling has run away. Behind them, third place is changing hands. Same thing there. That's Jeff Roy and Jeremy Swenson that are battling for position. And Swenson putting pressure on the 37 because they see those front two starting to pull away a little bit.
And those two, if they want to try and stay close, may want to not battle too much. They may almost want to do a little bump trapping if they can, but try and make sure they stay as close to Barroso and Darling as they possibly can. But Barroso is definitely not going to let Darling out of his sights.
It's a very busy place at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park right now. It's absolute chaos as they work through traffic.
And this are the leaders in TCR now that they've caught up to already. And,
oh man, there's also lapped GT3 cars in there. I think that's Promo Robbie that's in the middle of this as well, the 29th place car.
This looks like my rush hour drive home today.
Oh man.
Look at this.
Well, good thing they're in Canada because it wouldn't be so polite if they weren't. And Barroso, I don't even know where they are right now. Oh no, that's not going to work. 3 wide, and Barroso almost gets knocked into the dirt, and Darling gets through. He gets a break. No, Promo Robbie collides with somebody. Was that Tom O'Gorman? The leader in TCR is around.
Yes, it was. Unfortunately, that was Tom.
And he's got to wait to get back. He's got to wait for all these GT3s to go by. He's going to back off the racetrack. That's a very frustrating way to go out. Here's a look at the replay.
Well,
not sure there's a whole lot really to see here.
Yeah.
But it was just
so much traffic.
Yeah.
It's just, and he's probably just trying to get out of the way there with all the back markers of the GT3s who'd already spun. You get the leaders of GT3s coming through, and you got the 5 of those TCR leaders all stuck together. Darling and Barroso make it through cleanly, no problem. And only about a second back is Arroyo and Swenson.
And for 5th place in GT3, Casera and Kevin Lee, they're trading spots right now. Legan's going to get a little bit of the door treatment at the exit of turn 1, and he's going to cut back over to down to the inside for turn 2, but thinks better of it. Behind him, Vincent Cernuto in the 555. His Mercedes is around in turn 1. That's a weird place to crash. And here's a look. Was there contact potentially? Is that Chris DeShong? Oh, maybe. Yeah, it was DeShong that got into Cernuto and sent him around into the turn 1 tire barrier.
Well, I'm looking at Mackay Stevens' car. He's definitely got some damage in the front end of his car as well. I don't know if he's the one that got in with Tomo or somebody else.
It was Promo Ravi, the 29th place, now 28th place Mercedes AMG, the 98 car. Okay. And that is the car that...
as well has got some damage on him.
Yeah, so the 98 was a lap down, and Tomo has actually called it a night, unfortunately. I think there's... that's a frustrating way to go out.
Well, Darling's starting to break away a little bit of Barroso. He's over a second now.
Yeah, he has started to break away, and I'm not sure that Barroso is going to be able to get back to him unless he hits traffic again. Now, that's going to happen. I'm not sure that it'll be quite as chaotic as it was the first time through, though.
Right. But all it takes is one car at the wrong spot. Like going into 5 is tough because you got to wait around. Paul Darling catches somebody going in. Alex could easily pick up a second right there, but yeah, right now he's going to be hustling if he can.
Andrew Rasmussen in the number 45 Audi GT3, he went around in turn number 8. That's been a tricky spot. I think a lot of these drivers have these cars kind of balanced on the edge of what is acceptable to have as downforce levels, and they're pushing the issue through turn 8 and losing the rear end of the car. Kevin Lee, Gallagher, and Cocker, they're getting together at the bottom of Moss Corner. That's 7th, 8th, and 9th in GT3 as they head up the hill. Actually, that's Mackay Stevens, Lee, and Gallagher. Rather, Cocker is about a second back.
Yeah, that's a pretty tight three-way battle right there.
And now up, oh, look at Lee to the outside, heading to turn 8. He's in the dirt. And we've seen this go wrong one too many times, side by side. And the purple car, Lee's going to nose ahead through 9, and he'll make the pass complete. Gallagher got used up there a little bit on entry to turn 10. Gets shuffled out.
Yeah, Lee, good passing there, though. Using the drafts a little bit, setting them up, using the outside of 8, and able to hold it through 9 and 10. Good passing there by Lee.
Second place battle in TCR, Ryan Carwile, Eric Catil. Now, should these guys work together, or is DJ a lost cause at this point?
I think they've got to try and work together, but I don't know how well these cars draft, to be honest with you. They're not quite as well as some of the other ones like the GP3s.
Catil works in third place right now behind Ryan Carwile, and DJ Alessandrini 1.8 seconds up the road. So they've got some work to do if they want to catch Alessandrini. Oh no, big crash down in Moss Corner, and Mackay Stevens in the 16 was tumbling end over end, and that car was going to be done. What happened here? Came down into Moss Corner, flying, and oh, he's going to get hit by Caleb Nichols into 40 twice, once to turn him around and once to turn him over.
Oh, man.
And that was...
I tell you, going into that corner is tough because the way that pavement changes, it bottoms out, then it rises, and cars go loose, and it creates all kinds of chaos going through there.
So Mackay Stevens was having a really solid run, but he's out of the race. We'll head back up now to fourth place in GT3 because it's Swenson and Robert Casera that are now battling for fourth. Arroyan has taken up third, but he's a half a second up the road. Car off behind him. It is a TCR car, and I believe it's Brian Shabelsky's number 12. He'll get back on course now, 13th in class. Second place again, Catil has gotten through Carwile. Great battle for P2, and they're well behind Alessandrini. Now they're just on for that second place fight. Kevin Glass is not too far behind, though. So they got to watch out, make sure they don't introduce another car to this group.
But your leaders overall have caught some more traffic, and Barroso's now 3/10 on Darling as they come up Andretti Straight.
Oh boy, Barroso now closing in, showing the strength of that Z4 GT3. Down a couple gears into the downforce area where this car really excels.
Yeah, he's just able to close right up on them as they come through these S's. So I think if he's able to get a full car in front of him on the last lap, he'll be able to hold them through those last couple of S's. But that's obviously a tall order against someone like Paul Darling.
Through turn 1, Barroso closes within 1.5 tenths of leader Paul Darling. 5 minutes and 45 seconds to go. Darling hasn't made a whole lot of mistakes yet. It's just been timing and traffic. And Barroso closed the deal. Meanwhile, Gallagher and Lee trading spots again. Gallagher in the Z4, Lee in the Mercedes AMG. And Lee goes down a spot. Car off in front of him. That was a TCR car. Max Toyer in the Red Bull Racing livery. And he is now 11th in TCR. We'll jump back up to that battle between Gallagher and Lee, because Lee's going to try to... Oh, the car right in the middle of the racetrack, right in front of him. That was down in Moss Corner. It's Jorge Ortiz. He's around in turn number 5C. And now he's going to drop down the order a touch more. We're going to jump back up to the GT3 lead, though, Larry, because Barroso is right back on Paul Darling's bumper again with under 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, so it should be about 4 laps at this point. If they're lapping at about 1:15, we might get a 4th lap out of this.
Through turn
but
1.
At some point, Barroso's going to have to come off of turn 5 at 2/10 with a head of steam. He's going to have to get a full car length because Darling's already shown if they're side by side going through the S's, Darling's not going to give up the spot. She's going to have to get a full car length to be able to tuck in front and hold him to the S's. And right now, Barroso hasn't been able to do that.
There's Val DiPietro's 8th place TCR car. He'll stay well wide at the exit of turn 4 now, or turn 3 rather, and down the hill towards Moss Corner again. And Darling's going to get held up here on corner entry, and that's an opportunity for Barroso to close the gap. Car off in front of him. No harm, no foul. They'll continue out of Moss Corner now, and Barroso's going to have to throttle up the back straight. But this Z4 isn't quite as strong as the AMG here. This is where Darling seems to be able to keep his gap.
Yeah, and that might be helping him as they just grunt. So I think what Barroso's going to need is he's probably going to need a slow car just coming out of 5 just to make Darling hesitate before he can open up that big Mercedes AMG motor.
And that was...
But if Darling's going to open up early, then forget it. It's tough to catch him.
Kind of a bad spot to catch some lap traffic there in turn number 8, but doesn't phase Darling as he continues to lead. 3.5 minutes to go now.
And a Ferrari missing a hood.
There's a lot of Ferraris missing hoods right now. They have not had a good race so far. Statistically, I think the Ferrari is probably the worst car to drive, not because it's slow, just because it ends up getting in wreck slot. There is a GT3 car about to crash in turn 2. I didn't see who it was. Christopher Armbruster in the 29. He went for a wild ride at the exit of 2. Eric Catil has not really been able to close in on Alessandrini, but that gap has been pretty constant. It's 1.8 seconds now as they climb the hill towards 8. But we're going to stay focused, I presume, on GT3 just because Barroso is so close. He's within striking distance if Darling makes a mistake. And this is going to be a great run for Barroso on the back straight. He's going to take a look here, driver's left.
Yeah, and of course, Paul's going to make him go left, make him go the long way around turn 8. But again, he's got to get a full car length in front.
Oh, he's so close.
I don't think he's got the full length.
Oh, he's going to have it, though, into turn 9 on the left. No, he's going to slide big time and loses the position he just had, and he's way wide in 10-2.
Darling is so good at car control through 9 that's why you've got to get the full car and make Darling completely behind you. Otherwise, Darling's going to hold that and hold the position through 10.
Now, let's take another look at that from up above because he had him cleared and then just got into the corner and the car just four-wheel slides and Darling on the outside out of the rubber was able to hang on to that. Great car control, as you mentioned, Lefty.
Oh, but now as they go in through 3, there's traffic.
Everywhere. Traffic is an understatement. It's the New York City rush hour traffic right now.
But yeah, this is totally, but it's really working to Barroso right now as he almost able to move going through 3.
Oh, big dive for Darling under Catil. This is the TCR leaders that they're working through as well. A great run for Darling onto the back straight, though.
Yeah, he picked up a couple tenths going through 5. This is not the lap for Barroso.
It was about to be, but they needed to catch the traffic a hair later, and the track is pretty clear up the road for now.
He's going to get one more shot at this straightaway. Should be white flag this time by.
It will be white flag, as you mentioned. One more lap around 2.4 miles for Paul Darling. He's led since the drop of the green flag, but he's got Barroso nipping at his heels behind. One more lap around Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
Any traffic in front of him? I don't see anything, at least in the near distance.
I think it's relatively.
So you're looking for anybody.
Yeah, it's relatively clear. I think they'll be okay. Barroso really driving hard now, but he's a half a second back. Oh, Patrick Gallagher has crashed. Oh man, that car is destroyed.
And Darling evasive maneuvers just to get around.
Yeah, Gallagher. This is. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Did he get? I wonder if he got turned off a TCR car or something, but he just got hooked around. Was it Carwile? Yeah, it was. Carwile hooked him straight into the concrete. That was a heavy hit for Gallagher. He's out on the final lap. For Paul Darling, he's got a 0.4 of a second lead, and it's probably going to be enough. There is one TCR car in the way. It's the 42 of Jorge Ortiz. They're going to go around him. Barroso closes 2 more corners.
Yeah. Darling, though, this last lap has just been a bit of a school. This is how you drive a last lap. Hit your marks, hold your lead. Great race for Darling.
Checkered flag for Paul Darling. He wins race 1 here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Behind him, 4th place Casera and Swenson nose to tail, as with Jeff Royan. James Tack and Chris DeShong, their Ferraris battling all the way to the checkers. And where is DJ Alessandrini? Through turn 1. He wins race 1 in his number 1 car, Eric Catil. 3 seconds back, 0.3 in front of Ryan Carwile, who finishes 3rd.
So yeah, unfortunately with O'Gorman getting taken out there about halfway through in that TCR, we didn't quite see the progression of that battle, and then it kind of broke up the whole front pack of the TCRs as the interchange between the GT3s and TCRs progressed. That kind of led, I think, a little bit to the breaking up of the TCR group, which was unfortunate because that group of 5 was staying together for so long. I was hoping to see some more of that. Like to maybe somehow in the second race, somehow that pack could stay together. It really could make for an interesting finish. But Barroso and Darling, what a great race between those two. That was fantastic. Barroso had a couple of really good shots at him, just couldn't make him stick. And Darling boy, just ice in his veins around turn 9 to not give it up and not give up that line, even though the car sliding at him, holding his line to make sure he sticks it through 10. Just beautiful driving.
Phenomenal racing, especially in the GT3 category. But we're not done yet. We got a whole other one to do. And so we'll get to see the Barroso-Darling rematch. And Alessandrini Catil still have to hold off Carwile and Tom O'Gorman in a more fair fight in just a couple minutes. So we're going to jump to break for just a few. Stick with us. We'll be right back for race number 2.
Would you like to have a career in racing, and if so, what would you like to do, Dale?
Well, I want to be a race car driver someday. That's, it's all I've ever known, racing.
What did you want to be when you grew up? So many people live a life of what if. Go to school, go to college, get a 9-to-5. This is how we support our dreams, with a safety net. Because we're unsure about taking a leap of faith. Because we're afraid. As we grow, we cross things off our list of dreams. We cut them down, make them realistic. Having control of things is reassuring. But for some, the rush of being out of control is what gives them life. Some say racing cars is reckless. Maybe they're right. Out of bounds isn't just cheating, it's cheating death. Football fields made up in seconds. Decisions made in instants. For the people that climb behind the wheel of these cars, they're not driving it. They become part of it. It's an extension of the body. As a child, I looked up to these people, faces hidden by helmets. The less you saw of the driver, the more believable it became that they were, in fact, just part of the machine. It's easy to forget that inside the cockpit is someone just like us, but with the mindset that fear is a motivation, not a barrier. But the reality is, race car drivers are not like us. They never cross anything off their list of dreams. They just keep writing more. Daytona. Le Mans. Indianapolis. Monaco. Places that used to be just places, now international symbols of victory. To those that enjoy the spectacle of racing, the 2 feet of concrete and steel cables are a wall between us and them, between sitting in the grandstands and standing in victory lane. These same walls are a stark, immovable reminder that racing drivers put their lives on the line for the sake of the thrill and entertainment. Despite the risk, despite the heartbreak, despite the cost.
Holy crap, we got a terrible wreck behind you.
There are some on the sidelines who are fascinated by the danger. They are fascinated by speed, fascinated by the undying desire to be just a little bit better. Their dreams erased by geography, finances, or the lack of a famous last name. There are some who once wished to be a race car driver, but aren't, because they didn't get the chance. And they thought they'd spend the rest of their lives watching their heroes on television, or from the other side of the fence. They thought it was impossible to climb into a race car, so they crossed it off their list. But it's not impossible. There is a ticket to the other side of the fence. For those who want it bad enough, this is your chance.
Welcome back live to Sim TV and the Grid Life iRacers Sports Car Sprint. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined by Larry Lefty McLeod. Race number 1, Larry, was a chaotic, fun time for the GT3 drivers, but for TCR driver Tom O'Gorman, didn't quite end the way he wanted, but he's currently quickest in qualifying for race number 2. Will he turn race 2 around, or will you think he'll end up with a similar fate from race 1?
Tom drives well when he's angry. Somebody angered him, so I think we're going to see the beast unleashed here in race number 2. I think he was trying to be cordial and nice and let some of the other cars make their way through as he was sort of leading the pack there of TCRs. I don't think he's going to be quite as nice here in race 2 if leaders of GT3 come along. I think he's going to make them wait for him.
He's also done a livery change between race 1 and race 2. He's got the E-Euro parts livery on that car, which he has won races in, so maybe that's a little bit of good luck for him. Ryan Carwile comes on through, and again, up to second. 3/10 behind Tom O'Gorman, but in front of Eric Catil. So Carwile again showing his strength, and DJ Alessandrini is currently on track right now, making his qualifying effort. And he's just completed his warm-up lap, so he'll start his flying lap right now.
Thomas qualifier at a 25.2, I think, is right around where DJ's qualifier was the first race. It was right around the low 25s. I don't think he cracked 24.
And
Might need one now if he wants to be on pole here in the second race.
the conditions have changed a little bit. It's about 10 degrees cooler than it was. It's also the evening now, so that's going to certainly change the handling of the cars quite a bit.
Yeah, 24s could be possible then. The cooler temps.
Alessandrini very composed on the brakes the first lap through, and again, it's so hard to get these tires heated up in just one lap so that they're up to optimal temp. So I'm sure Alessandrini was really trying very hard to get the car warmed up so that he'd have one quick flying lap, but I imagine he'll get at least 2 more laps here to run a flyer. Alex Barroso just went to pole in GT3 by 0.05 of a second. What a lap that was.
Yeah, but it puts Darling and Barroso right back in the front row, right where they left off.
And Austin Cobb, Gallagher, Arroyan, Casera, Swenson, all the rest of your top 7. So it's looking like a little deja vu with the top 5 or 10 or so in GT3.
It totally does, yeah.
You didn't really see.
That'd be interesting if Barroso can actually keep Darling behind him through turn 2 on this first lap. And maybe we'll have an opposite of the first race, where maybe it'll be Darling chasing Barroso instead of the opposite.
Yeah, we didn't see a lot about Miles Gilsinger in race 1. Had a really competitive run at Bathurst last week, so we'll see if he can make his way up through the field a little bit. Right now, 14th in qualifying. I'm sure that's not where he wants to be. Max Toyer in the 944 has also qualified, but it was only a 1:27.6. He had trouble in race 1. Gilsinger comes out of turn number 10. Will he improve this time? It was a 27.2. It was his best lap. And that was a 29.9, so no improvement that time for Gilsinger.
Keeping an eye on DJ coming out of turn 5 here on his second qualifying lap. Didn't look super smooth, kind of missed the apex just a little bit, but obviously second lap, a little warmer tire. Might pick up a little bit. He's about 0.3 slower than Tom's best effort on his first go, so he's sitting second right now. We'll see if he's able to match that for a couple of tenths.
Well, it was down in a low angle. He was wheeling that car through turn 8. And now at turn 9 and 10 to finish up the rest of the lap. And through turn 10. And you don't want to get on the curb there. That'll wreck your run onto the front straight. Ooh, a little bit of grass on corner exit across the line, though. What's it going to be? A 25.395, which is not quite good enough for pole, but almost. And that'll be it. All the attempts that he'll get. He'll be a 1/10.5 away from beating Tom O'Gorman.
But it's ironically exactly the opposite of how they started the first race. So the front row of each of the classes are flip-flop from where they started. And what we talked about in the TCR opening race was, could Tomo hold it against EJ on the outside of 1 and hold the inside of 2? And he did. Now, roles reversed. Can DJ hold the outside of 1 and the inside of 2? And then can Darling and Barroso, can that also be held that way? Who's going to come out in the lead, and then who can start holding it until we start seeing intermix of traffic about, what is that, about 5-6 laps in or 7 laps in.
So with that, let's head down to our starting grid for the lineup for this 20-minute event. And on the front row for race number 2 is going to be Alex Barroso in the number 39. His Z4 lines up right alongside Paul Darling's 155 Mercedes, the race-winning car from race number 1.
Yeah, on the second row, we've got Austin Cobb and Patrick Gallagher, just a couple of hundredths separating those two on that second row.
In row number 3, starting in 5th place, will be Jeff Arroyan in his number 36 Mercedes AMG GT3, and Rob Casera had a solid run in race 1. He'll try to do it again from 6th in his AMG.
Looks like we got a couple of more AMGs here. On the next row is Jeremy Swenson and Andrew Abbott. They're on row 4.
Row 5, Chris DeShong in his 488, alongside Bob Dice in his Mercedes AMG. That's the 41 and the 28, starting 9th and 10th.
Starting 11th, Stephen Cugliari, and starting in 12th, Nick Nelson, down there at a 1:16 qualifying times for both of those guys.
In row number 7, 13th and 14th, Dan Capalbo in an AMG in his number 22. Charles Bowley in the 29 rolls off in 14th.
On 15th on the grid, we got Brandon Abbott, and on 16th on the outside of row 8, Derek King. They're driving one of the Ferraris here tonight.
In 17th place, Peter Zhang in the number 40 AMG. Justin Tizano had some trouble in race 1. He'll try to turn it around in race 2 in his number 35 Ferrari 488.
And I believe in the last row here, I think for the GT3s, we got a couple, I guess, qualifying time here. The last row, the ones that did, Christopher Armbruster, and I think on the inside of that, well, excuse me, it was Caleb Nichols will be on the inside of that row, on the outside of the Christopher Armbruster. They're on row 10.
Tom O'Gorman and DJ Alessandrini sharing the front row in TCR. Then it's Carwile and Catil in row number 2. Is qualifying more or less important in TCR than it is in GT3? What's your call on that?
I think it's going to be interesting because of the way that we just saw was it's going to be a traffic battle, and in the TCRs, as long as you can stay bunched, you got to be careful of what's coming behind you to not lose what's in front of you. And I think that's what we saw with Tomo is he got caught up with all the intermix of the laps and the lapping GT3s. DJ was able to pull away because some of the cars behind him got separated. So if you wherever you start may not matter as much. It might just be just stick with your class and try to make a move late. Don't let the guy pull away because you get lost in traffic.
So the conditions have changed. More of the track is in shadow. It's a couple degrees cooler. But we're still going to have the same amount of time. 20 minutes to contest this race. And again, you mentioned earlier, Lefty, that the front row has swapped positions. And row 2 looks pretty much exactly like it did before. With the Audi on the inside and the Z4 on the outside.
Yeah, and I think those guys stuck together pretty well in that race as well. So I think what we did see even until the traffic broke things up is this top 5 or 6 stuck together for a long time. I expect to see a lot of that again. So we'll see if Barroso or Darling is able to kind of lead the pack, and what does the pace look like? How quickly do they catch the back of the TCRs? Is it 5 laps or is it even less? Because they really caught quickly in that first race.
I also noticed that it looked like Ryan Carwile did not take the grid, so Carwile's TCR is not going to be contesting race number 2, at least not from the very start. So whoever was behind Carwile will get to move up a row. So pace cars rolling through the S's now. It's Barroso on the inside in the BMW Performance Parts 39. That's the Z4. Then it's on the outside, Paul Darling's 155, the yellow and black car. Pace cars off. 20 minutes, about 16 to 17 laps. Green flag flies and racing for race number 2 of the Grid Life iRacers Sports Car Sprint.
He's got the entire car now for Barroso is in front of Darling, so he's going to try and keep that as they go around turn 1 now into turn 2. So finally isn't looking at the back of the AMG for at least the first couple of corners here.
TCR started and Tom O'Gorman's gone. Already cleared by several car lengths. Catil's fighting for 3rd place, but relatively clean start and very spread out already as they make their way down towards turn 2.
Tom, I'm telling you, he's going to be a man of a mission. He's not going to be giving up any position to anybody. I don't care which lapping car comes behind him. He's not going to give up anything for them. I'm sure he wants this one badly.
Through Moss Corner for the first time. Big dive for the 16th place car. That's Christopher Armbruster, I believe. And they're all through now. Whether the TCRs come into the picture, and Catil's been shuffled all the way back to 5th in class. Now make it 6th. He's had trouble. He's off in the dirt just a little bit, and a lot of work to do to catch back up to the leaders.
Yeah, that's going to be tough because the pace that Alessandrini and O'Gorman are going to lay down, Catil is going to be hard-pressed to catch that up.
And Barroso is clear of Darling by 0.6 of a second. Oh, both 2nd, 3rd, and 4th all off in the dirt at the exit of the final corner. Austin Cobb, we didn't see a whole lot out of him in race 1. He was there, but not really part of the battle for the lead. He's 3rd place now and close behind Paul Darling.
I think Barroso is liking these cooler temperatures. I think he wants to come lay a couple of flyers down and see if he can pull a little bit. Darling's going to have to make sure he settles in and keeps his gap under a second to stay in draft range.
V10 screaming under the rear glass of that Audi R8. And Patrick Gallagher behind. He crashed out on the final lap of race 1, so he's looking for redemption in race 2. And no challenge right now in TCR. Lefty Tombo is free and clear 1.3 seconds away, so Alessandri's going to have to catch him the old-fashioned way. The draft won't help you from that far back.
Yeah, no, not from that far back at all. DJ's got pace, though. So when you do get into the intermixing a little while, if Tom's forced to go offline and give up a little bit, DJ, again, he's also, like I mentioned about Tom, DJ doesn't give up to anybody. So these two, it's going to come down to who can fight the traffic and not give anything up. We saw that last week as well. You know, in Australia, same thing where, oh, little slide there for Tom. But we saw in Australia last week where the race came to Tom in the first race because the leader he was chasing had to keep slowing for traffic. We're going to see some of that here. It always helps one driver more than the other. We have to see who it helps more, DJ or Tom.
Chris DeShong putting pressure on Andrew Abbott for 7th in GT3. They're heading through turn 2 now, down the hill, and that's where the Ferrari is certainly going to excel a little bit, is in the downforce areas. It's not quite so much a straight line monster as the AMG, so it's got to make up the time in the twisty stuff. And behind him, Derek King and Dan Capaldo. This is for 13th. They're side by side. Make that 12th place, actually, and King to try to fight back.
Just keeping an eye on Barroso to see how well he comes out of Moss Corner. Does an okay job, but Darling got a really good run through that corner, and he's able to keep within that half a second range. In fact, he's able to gap Cobb behind him by a couple extra tenths, so Darling clearly able to stick with Barroso.
It was Justin Tizano we saw go off into the concrete barrier in the entrance to Moss Corner. He slipped on the brake, so he's going to have some damage to repair. Meanwhile, DCR has kind of been where it's been. And Gugliari in the 4, he's spun out in turn 8. He's got to wait for the entire field to go by before he can pull back into the racetrack. And I think this is might have had a little bit of contact from a fellow competitor here, and I believe that was Jeff Arroyo, potentially? Oh, yeah. Turned him around. Turn 8. Seems like everyone's found a little bit of room to race here, but already Barroso, there's Ryan Carwile that he's caught, and Carwile started from the pits in this race. So we're a couple laps in, and now we're starting to think about traffic just a little bit, as Barroso's got a bit of panic.
Our TCR leaders, and they've got some of the GT3s that, you know, maybe at early spins, they're trying to make their way through.
That's the 24th place car that's working his way by. That's Corey Ross in the 42, I believe, and also 24th place Andrew Rasmussen that are working their way by the TCR leaders, and they have done so. Alessandrini 1.4 back. Brad Adams in 3rd place. How about this run for Adams tonight? Livery looking like one of those test things they use on news channels to make calibrate the whatever.
It is the test pad.
Okay, that's what it is. I knew it.
The national anthem at like 1 in the morning with the test pad on. The kids won't get that joke. I'm too old for that one, I guess.
Adams in 3rd, Val DiPietro in 4th. Eric Catil did not get a very good start in this race and has not made up any spots after his initial drop to 5th.
Yeah, very difficult start there for Catil. Thought maybe he'd be able to stick with O'Gorman and Alessandrini, but a little slip and slide, and it's all it takes on lap 1. Next thing you know, you're falling back. Now he's back in 5th in class.
Oh, speaking of slipping and sliding, Charles Boley has gone around for a crash at the exit of turn 1. And I think this is just a situation of charging a corner a little bit too hard and leaning too much on the downforce of this car. Oh, he was on the inside of the curb. Actually, might have gotten the inside of the wall. That's what sent him around into the concrete.
So out in front, Barroso's gotten now a full second gap on Darling, and now they're making their way through traffic, and he's got not only gap of time, he's got cars between him.
Yeah, Darling just went middle 3 wide. Trying to get...
yeah, he's making Darling work.
And Barroso cleanly through. That's Max Toyer's 944 that he's passed and put a lap down. And Barroso's making this look easy now that he's out front, and Darling's still dealing with a lot of traffic. And behind him, Cobb and Casera got a lot of work on their hands here.
And that's it's almost a gamble. It's a complete roll of the dice, whether or not you get cleanly through or your competitor does. In this case, it was Barroso and not Darling. Maybe the next time they catch a pack, it could be the opposite. But it's interesting to watch, because what happens now is at least for a lap or so.
Oh, no! Patrick Gallagher, again, in race number 2. He's crashed out of this one again. And this time, I think it was... this could have been Jeremy Swenson. And on the outside, they were 3 wide, and then, oh, he just had to, he dove for a gap to the inside of the TCR machine, and he got hooked together with, I believe, Benson Ty. Yeah, that's who it was. And racing incident there, but not a whole lot that either of those guys could have done. But Barroso, a 2-second lead over Paul Darling. It just keeps growing.
He's just picking these TCR cars left and right down the Andretti straight as he's catching Gutierrez and Adams here on this the back straight.
Oh, he had to slow way down for that, though. That hurt him quite a bit. And Darling just made up a big chunk of time.
Yeah, that's that risk. But that's those S's. At some point, you just can't go multiple wide through there. You do have to go a little bit conservative. But Darling's got to make his ways by the same cars.
Sun setting in the background over the Michelin Bridge on the front straightaway. And Tom O'Gorman, let's check in on TCR because his lead has not decreased. It's really not gone anywhere. He's still 1.4 out in front of Alessandrini. As you see, there goes Barroso on by.
Yeah, and the lead has not changed at all, which means DJ's matching Tom's pace.
Oh, trouble.
Lap for lap, corner for corner.
Trouble behind him. It's Jeremy Swenson around again, and he's got Austin Cobb in it, the 3rd and 4th place cars this time. And more trouble for the front runners in GT3. And I wonder if this time do they get... Oh, the 83 was drifting out wide. That was a TCR car. And Swenson had nowhere to go, and the 7 just kind of rolled back into him. Who was the 83? That was being driven by Kevin Glass. Just drifted out and tagged the 7.
Well, we've had our first round of leaders of GT3 catching leaders of TCR. We're coming up to this halfway point. Things have kind of spread out a little bit. I don't think there's quite as many packs, and not as many packs even as we had in the first race. Even within the classes, we don't have that pack of TCRs. We don't have the packs of GT3s nearly as much. In fact, I don't see a whole lot of tightly contested. We've got the 4 and 5, Deschong and Abbott are about a second apart in GT3. You've got, I think, let's see, Adams and Catil are kind of close together. Other than that, not much. So this will be interesting now, is picking the way through traffic. Can Darling now make moves on Barroso? Can DJ make moves on Tom? Not as much big chunks of traffic to maybe get through. Can they just pick one by one and maybe within 10, 11 minutes make a move?
So while all this has been going on, I will note that Alessandrini has chopped the lead to O'Gorman almost in half. It's now under a second. And while 3rd place Bradley Adams and Catil fight, Alessandrini is slowly pulling in Tom O'Gorman. So the hot tires, or once the tires are up to temp rather, that seems to be the sweet spot for Alessandrini. Tomo's just so good when they're cold.
He is. Oh yeah, he's just a complete monster when they're cold. I watched him. That's the. I mean, they're both autocrossers, but Tomo is a complete alien, as we say, as an autocrosser. When they're cold, he's as hot as they get when they're cold.
And on the outside, Catil for 3rd in TCR, fighting with Brad Adams, side by side, and Catil almost clear, not quite. Now to turn 10, Adams has preferred line, and he'll leave Catil plenty of space as they come off the corner. It'll be a drag race down to turn 1. Contact.
Little bit. Neither one giving up anything yet. Finally tucking in line there through 1.
Anthony Montello's had problems, and his number 24. And looks like he might have... Oh, this is a big hit for him. This is down in Moss Corner. There was more than one car involved. Oh, Montello ran into the back of a car that was recovering. Oh, man, he just got hooked at the wrong time. It was a TCR car that was the 34. It was being driven by Jorge Ortiz, was disabled, and Montello tried to go around the outside of him and knocked the whole rear suspension out of it, so that'll be day over for Montello. TCR lead, how about half a second? It's going to be a race.
Yeah, and this is where you need to be on this back straight, is about a half a second. I don't know that this was enough on this particular run through, but DJ now is setting up for the next lap to make the move.
GT3 splitting 3rd and 4th place in TCR on the back straight. I think that was Promo Ravi working his way through. Nope, Town Capalvo, in the 22. And Adams still has P3 in TCR, and who's back? It's Val DiPietro in the 102. That's that green car. Right back to the rear bumper of Catil for 4th.
With the appropriate livery on it. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Good tonight.
8 minutes left in this race, and it's hot on the racetrack everywhere. For the lead, though, Tom O'Gorman and DJ Alessandrini nose to tail, side by side for turn number 2.
And DJ just trying to push him offline a little bit because there is a very, very particular line you need to be on through turn 2. DJ is just trying to make Tom uncomfortable entering 2.
He might have done it.
A little wide in 3. Yep.
Tomo's out a little bit offline. That's going to give Alessandrini a good run. There comes Capaldo to driver's right, and DJ's going to tuck back in line for a moment. Stay out of trouble.
Yeah, I think he was just taking the line he wanted. I don't think he really cared where the GT3 car was.
into Moss corner this time, and Tomo continues to lead. Now the run up the back straight. This is where we're going to see Alessandrini have a look here. And I'm sure Tom's going to stay defensive and on driver's right here.
Of course, yeah. That's where you want to be. And then they're going to have this GT3 car right next to them about halfway down the straightaway. Let's see if DJ pops out and tries to follow. Yep, there he goes. Try to catch a little draft.
Into turn 8 now. And Alessandrini might actually have a chance if he can just stay driver's left. Tomo clears him and slides out in front. Elbows out. O'Gorman hangs on for now.
Yeah, not quite enough draft there for DJ. I don't know if he maybe just didn't quite get enough run, or maybe he had to wait for the GT3 car to go by before he could pop out.
Eric Catil and Brad Adams right behind. They're having a similar duel. Adams going to have a good run onto the front straightaway. Can he do anything with Catil?
We've seen this before, side by side, same place.
A pair of GT3s behind them, waiting very patiently. Actually, that's LT Pietro and a singular GT3. Good battles. You know what's interesting? TCR last race was the less interesting group, and it was GT3 that had the really good race. Now it seems like the tables have turned, and TCR is the race to watch in this one.
And there's a couple of battles worth watching.
Absolutely.
It's not just the lead either. This 3-4 battle's been going on now for a couple of laps. Or I should say now 3-4-5 battle.
Catil has gone through to third. Adams and DiPietro continue to fight for fourth. Now back to GT3 for a moment. Andrew Abbott and Jeff Verroyen. 25 and 36. This is for 5th place. Big run for Verroyen. He's had to jump on the brakes for a moment at the corner exit to avoid running into the back of Abbott. And down the hill.
It's that line left-hander turn 2. You just have to be, just to trust that the corner's going to be there as the bottom just drops out.
Stephen Cugliari, oh, he's on his lid. Cugliari, the 12th place GT3 car, the 4, has turned over. He is upside down. I'm trying to see where this is on the racetrack. I think it's turn 8, potentially. And here's a look. You have the 663 of Nick Nelson behind him. And oh, he just got loose and crashed all on his own. Wow, that was a hit. Turned it up and over. And he's still there.
Oh.
And slowly sliding, but no full course yellows in this, so we'll stay racing. And Tom O'Gorman has restretched his lead back out, lefty, so Alessandrini's got some more work to do, it looks like.
So I'm watching this battle of the 4-5 here in GT3, and actually it's just a 5-6, but it actually is a 4-5-6 battle, as up in front of them in the Ferrari is Chris DeShong, about 1.4 seconds in front of Abbott and Arroyan. So if you see these two Mercedes, you look right in front of them is that that wine red Ferrari is part of this battle. If these two GT3s can, these two AMGs can sort of work together, they might be able to catch that Ferrari.
And they're running out of time. We only have about 4 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. So time is of the essence if they want to go up there and catch 4th place DeShong. And they are catching him a little bit. DeShong last time ran a pretty slow lap, a 1:16.0, although that was faster than the drivers around him for the most part. But this lap, a lot slower, and Abbott's right on his rear wing.
I think there was an issue there with a TCR car coming around turn 3 that helped punch them up a little bit. And here they are in the back straight, and there's all kinds of traffic in front of them now.
Pick a side and stick to it, because they're going to have to commit. And they're going to go by a couple TCR machines and head up towards turn 8 and the S's. Abbott closing in, but he's going to have to wait through the S's one more time before he'll have a run at DeShong.
And poor Jeff Arroyan's right back there. He can't do anything. He gets stuck behind the two TCR cars with nowhere to go. He tried right, had to go around left, and he's just watching these other two pulling away from him now.
Up in front in GT3, it's still Barroso. He's worked his way expertly through traffic tonight. Paul Darling,
He really has.
3 seconds back.
Yeah, he's done a phenomenal job tonight, just making sure he timed all the corners just right to not get held up. And Darling, sometimes, like I said, it's just the roll the dice. You get stuck behind a car in the wrong corner, you got to wait it out. And it's costing just a couple tenths here, tenths there. You get behind the draft, and away goes Barroso.
And Barroso's actually closing in on our TCR leaders. They're just up the road. And Alessandrini has reeled in O'Gorman again. He's 3 tenths back. O'Gorman kind of missed the first apex there in the S's. Now back to driver's left for turn 9. And Alessandrini's there.
About 3 laps to go. They'll do this, but at some point again, DJ's going to have to make a move, but he's got to watch the traffic around him to make sure he's able to. And I don't think he's going to make a move and just stick his nose in somewhere. It's going to be a bit more calculated. I'm sure at this point he's been behind him long enough. He knows if he has an advantage somewhere where that advantage is, and he's going to have to use it.
And Barroso's got plenty of time to take his time here, so I don't think he'll push the issue. Oh, that was, yeah, he had to wait on it there. Now back to the left and through. He did lose some time, though. Darling is only 1.6 back. That was a very costly moment for Alex Barroso.
Yep. Darling able to make pretty quick work of those two. Again, it's a matter of catching them at the right versus the wrong time.
And Darling had a spectacular run into Moss, so he's closed that gap down from over 3 seconds down to 7 tenths and a half a lap. Wow. I'm not sure this is totally over yet.
This is definitely not over because now he's in draft range with basically a lap and a half to go.
This might be white flag here. I'm thinking, 15 seconds, it's going to be white flag.
I think it is, and both classes are up in the air. This is going to be exciting. Here we go again.
2.5 miles to determine the winner of race number 2. In race 1, it was Barroso and Darling, but order flipped. Darling went home with the checkered flag a little while ago. He's got some work to do if he wants to do it again. White flag in the air here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Behind him, Tom O'Gorman and Alessandrini nose to tail in TCR. They didn't get the chance to fight it out a couple minutes ago. They're going to get the chance to fight it this time.
DJ is just going to try and fill mirrors. He's going to try left. He's going to try right. Tom's not the guy to try and pressure to make a mistake. DJ just had better know that he's faster in some corner and try to use that to his advantage. You're not going to make Tom make a mistake. Tom doesn't make mistakes.
In the braking zone for turn 3, DJ's up way high on the curb. And I think this is going to come down to the last straightaway. I don't think he'll have a chance until then. Meanwhile, in GT3, Barroso has a 9/10 of a second lead. Darling is so good on the exit of turn 5, and he's going to have a run here. I just don't know if it's going to be enough.
But he's got, Barroso's got a drafting Ferrari in front of him, and I think that's going to be the difference here. So it's not going to give Darling a chance to draft the BMW, because BMW's got someone to pull him in front of him.
Chris DeShong in 4th, just went for a loop at the exit of Moss Corner. He's gotten it back rolling, but through the S's for the final time. Barroso was denied a victory a little while ago, but he'll round out the night with a checkered flag. Alex Barroso goes to victory lane at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And Darling, 1st and 2nd tonight.
But TCR's not done yet. They're side by side.
Oh, here they come. Alessandrini crossover, back to driver's left, one more corner. Tom O'Gorman, DJ Alessandrini, crossover, a bump, a bang. Coming to the checkers drag race, Tom O'Gorman gets it done.
Tom has got a really wide car for those last couple of corners.
Wow.
I don't know how all of a sudden that Audi just suddenly became about 2-3 feet wider, but great driving by Tom and DJ as well. That was actually really clean between those two.
Yeah, we're going to go back and watch that again. They were side by side in the back straightaway. Here's a look from what happened from up above. And Alessandrini was actually nose ahead into turn 8. Tomo just a bit deeper on the brakes, side by side through 8 and 9. And then you saw the contact in 10 as Alessandrini threw one more thing at the playbook there, and it didn't quite work out.
Wow. He tried. Tom did a really good job of defensively cutting inside to hold that line, not giving DJ enough room. Again, taking the inside, not giving DJ any room through 10. A little bit of bumper contact through 10, but not a big deal. Great driving.
Right on board with Alessandrini one more time before we show you the results of this race. Big slide, and Tomo actually, he kind of cleared himself a little bit by kind of tracking out a bit more than he normally would through 8 and 9. It actually kind of helped block DJ, so excellent work. Excellent defensive driving by Tom O'Gorman. All right, here's a look at your race results. This time it was Barroso on top of Darling and O'Gorman on top of Alessandrini. Spectacular racing. That was a pleasure to watch at the end there, Lefty.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, it's great watching the couple of masters here getting it done. Kind of a kid who's getting it done in the virtual world, trying to turn it into a real racing career, and somebody who's already now a pro racer coming back to show us that skills do translate. Watching these two, DJ and Tom, getting it done, it's pretty awesome.
Really, really fun to watch. We're going to be back in just a minute to talk to Barroso, Darling, Alessandrini, and O'Gorman. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Stick with us. Welcome back live to Sim TV, the Grid Life iRacers Sports Car Sprint. We're here now with DJ Alessandrini, second place in race number 2. DJ, you won race 1, but race 2 you had to work a little harder for that second spot. Walk us through that last lap battle, and I'll have Lefty talk to you here in a minute as well.
Yeah, I thought I'd have some more tire at the end, so Tom would be disposed of easily because he was roasting them in the beginning. So he'd have nice, steamy, hot tires for the start of the race. But I didn't. I thought, like I said, I thought I'd have more tire at the end. But then about 6 laps in, I remembered there's not really a good place to pass on Mosport. And talking to Tom afterwards, that's kind of what his game plan was. He didn't need good tires at the end as long as he had track positioning. So kudos to Tom for figuring that out before I did.
Yeah, Tom really was showing that as long as you could hold that right lane going into turn 8 into the S's, you could hold that position. He seemed to do a really good job, and he seemed like you kept trying a couple times to make the outside run, but not quite able to make it a stick. Car just not wanting to hold it through there.
Yeah, I feel like the only way I would have been able to get past him there is if I was willing to make contact just by sticking on the left side as the space got smaller and smaller. But I was never quite there enough where it would have been a door-to-door contact. It would have just been me spinning them. So I had to pull out every time. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Working with the traffic was tricky, and surviving was the name of the game tonight.
Yeah, I think you guys did a better job in the second race than the first one as far as trying to stick with your class when the GT3s were trying to coming through. Because the first race, when the leaders came through, it kind of got chaotic and everybody kind of got split up. Obviously, Tomo kind of got taken out a little bit of that.
I mean, I did great.
yeah, you seem to be the beneficiary of that in the first race. In the second race, did that help you catch Tom, or was it just your pace in the second half of the race just help you catch Tom?
His tires were falling off, so reeling him in wasn't that difficult. But passing him was a whole nother story.
Yeah,
And
he drives a wide car.
I could have attacked him for a couple more laps, but man, things got a little hairy with the GT3 traffic, and it kind of pushed me about a second back. So I had to, reel him in for a couple more laps instead of attacking him for those couple laps. I just needed to pressure him and hope that he would slip at some point, and I'd put my car in whatever gap slip would make, but I didn't have enough laps to pressure him. So
Yeah, blue glasses don't crack, man. I'm telling you, that guy does not crack under pressure.
oh, he would have.
All right. Well, thank you, DJ. Good race of the night. Good win in the first race, and good second place there in the second one.
All right, thanks, guys.
We're going to move on to Tom O'Gorman, who ended up winning race number 2. Tom, race 1 didn't go the way you wanted to, but you had it turned around, and race number 2 had to hold off a hard-charging DJ Alessandrini. Walk us through that final lap and keeping that one car in your mirror.
Yeah, I was definitely frustrated after race 1, so I kind of had a fire under me for race 2, and not even often that I get to out-qualify him, let alone beat him in a race. So my only goal was to kind of build a gap at the beginning. He doesn't like to warm his tires on the TCR, so he has the car at the end of the race. And I knew that if I warmed my car at the beginning of the race, I could build a gap. And then my hope was that the GT3 cars would kind of go my way more so than him. And they really helped me once, and they kind of hurt me a little times here and there. So it kind of was a wash, but this place is so hard to pass at. I kind of knew that if I stayed in the way and kind of kept the inside line through any of the higher speed corners, that I was okay. And that worked out.
The traffic tonight got a little bit wild with the GT3 cars. How much mirror driving do you do when those cars are coming, or are you just focused on what you're doing and just hoping that they are picking the right battles to run through as they're working through you guys?
It's kind of, in iRacing, it's really nice. Unlike real life, you have a relative screen, so you can see them coming when they're within a couple seconds sometimes of you. So it's more so relative screen driving than it is mirror driving. And then it's just being absolutely crystal 100% clear with the body language of your car where you intend to go. And it worked out okay for race 2. I think as long as you're kind of doing that, you're putting yourself in the best position.
Tom, great work tonight. Race 1, obviously not what you want to remember, but race 2, victory and checkered flag for the 94 again in victory lane. Congratulations, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, y'all. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Tom.
All right, so Tom O'Gorman wins race number 2. Let's talk to the race 1 winner in GT3. It was Paul Darling that got it done in race 1, but second in race 2, Paul, a hard-fought battle all night long. Walk us through your fight there in both races with Alex Barroso.
First race with the pole, Mosport, there's really only one spot to pass, and that's at the end of the back straight. What really surprised me was how good Alex's car was at the end of the straight, just completely able to power by me, almost pull ahead of me there. We had some great side-by-side racing in the first race where I had to defend the inside, and Mosport's one of my favorite tracks because you can really take that entire last sector side by side, and you can also defend either side really. But that was just a blast of great clean racing, great clean side by side stuff. And in the second race, I knew it'd be a struggle to stay on Alex's tail. I definitely felt the aero wash there with the loss of downforce. I wasn't able to stay close enough to Alex when we hit the TCRs, and Alex was just able to get through the traffic better there.
With traffic like the TCRs tonight, there was a lot of chaotic situations. How far ahead are you thinking? When you see traffic coming, are you planning your moves a lap in advance, half a lap in advance, or are you just kind of doing it as you get there?
Really, I guess you could think like 2 corners ahead, like especially for turn 1 and 2, you need to be planning exactly if you're going to try and undercut the TCR on exit, and then basically how many TCRs are coming up next for the next corner. You really have to try and see also who's driving it, if they're going to maintain their line consistently.
Paul Darling wins race 1, second place in race number 2. Great run tonight, Paul. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Right, now, our final driver tonight, race 2 winner, Alex Barroso. Alex, tonight you had a really, really good battle in race 1 and race 2, but you came out on top in race 2 by 0.7 of a second. Walk us through both races tonight, chasing Paul Darling and then trying to run away from him.
Yeah, second race there, I got lucky. I somehow found a little bit extra pace. I think that colder track, for whatever reason, I was able to find a little bit more than everybody else. And I don't think my heart could take another one like that first race, so I just had to try to take advantage of that pace and check out. And it seems like I was able to play traffic a little bit better than Paul in the second one, and that really helped me check out. But But yeah, both races were just super fun. I don't think I've ever had a race as crazy as that first one.
Tell me about the differences between the Z4 and the AMG, because we saw, obviously, the field was very AMG heavy, but Darling was saying that the Z4 was out pulling him on the straights. Where do you think that your car was stronger than his?
Yeah, it seemed like straight line. Really, we were pretty even everywhere. It's hard to tell when you're running nose to tail because the car behind is just going to struggle either way, especially at a high-speed track like Mosport. The wake is really bad, and you just end up really destroying those front tires if you try pushing hard behind another car. So when you're behind a car, it's really hard to kind of gauge the performance. But we both could definitely tell that I was pulling him stronger in the draft on the straight than he was pulling me when he was behind me, which is odd because the Z4 definitely didn't used to be that way. But I'd say they were really evenly matched. It was just a tiny bit better going down the straight.
Alex, congratulations on your race win tonight and a second place in race 1. Great battles all around. We look forward to seeing you in victory lane again next week at Nürburgring. Good luck.
Right. Thank you so much, guys. Great job on the stream. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, Alex. Have a good night.
You as well. Bye.
And with that, Larry, that's going to do it for the interviews this evening. Wow. This racing every week is just so fun to watch. Your thoughts after 2 20-minute races at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park?
I'm really impressed with the way the field is able to kind of watching guys like Barroso and Darling just pick their way through with precision through traffic. It's just amazing. And Barroso, he's talking about picking his spots 1-2 corners ahead. Darling talking about that. And they're right. You can watch them doing it and try to make the decision in their mind is this a driver who's going to be consistent in their line? And they're calculating this in their head while also driving, maintaining their position and their own, picking out their points, their marks. It's astounding of how well and how skilled these guys are. And it shows why they're driving as fast as they are. It's really impressive. Great battles. I really had a lot of fun. I'm so much now still looking forward to next week at the ring.
Absolutely. The Nürburgring up next week at 9 o'clock on Tuesday night. It'll be the last race of the season. We'll update you on the point-setting situation when we head there next week. Thank you again for joining us tonight on SimTV. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, be sure to do that because the Grid Life season might be ending, but we got a whole lot of stuff going on throughout the rest of the year. We also have Washington, D.C. Region SCCA racing tomorrow night from Road Atlanta, and I believe, Larry, you'll be in that, so it'll be really fun to watch.
I might be. Skippy night.
All right, everyone. Have a good night. We'll see you later. See you next week.